Central Instruction Court of the National Court to the Central Court of Instruction, National Court. The undersigned, related to the Platform 30 Anti-Chemtrails Hereafter, SCSAC, of legal age, with name, address and NE below indicated in the list that is attached to the present complaint, before the court we appear and, as best proceed in law, we expose that by means of this letter we interposed denouncement for alleged crime continued against the environment typified in article of the Penal Code, and other correlatives and related against the unknown offer of them. 1. That the subscribers have heard that there are indications of the Commission on Crimes against the Environment and Public Health, in base to the following facts. First, some years ago white and white stelae were visible in the sky, gaseous nature that apparently certain planes leave, but that unlike what happens with the contrails of the smoke from the turbines, result especially persistent and remain visible for considerable periods of time. To these stelae of unknown origin the popular voice has been called chemtrails, as a result of its possible composition based on chemical products in principle unknown but presumably dangerous. The following photos are attached to illustrate the following. Second, the frequency with which these signals are visible, as well as its rare persistence, together with the omission of any explanation or official information about them, are causing considerable social alarm and fueling rumors about its composition chemistry and the intention of those responsible for its issuance. These rumors include the supposed inclusion of barium that could contaminate the soil. On the popular YouTube platform, several videos showing the chemtrails in action at the moment of being expelled from aircraft by devices that at first sight have nothing to do with the propulsion device. Some revealing images are the following. Third, the phenomenon is included in Wikipedia, which states among other things what following in relation to its possible objectives: climate control, perhaps to mitigate the effects of climate change, or perhaps to provoke them. Military uses. Communications. Radar. Biological or chemical warfare. Propagation of diseases. Cause droughts. Alter the DNA. Stop overpopulation, sterilization. Fourth article of the Penal Code includes among the defining behaviors of the crime against the environment the emission into the atmosphere of prohibited substances by the general provisions. The general provisions on air quality are, as follows: Directive of the European Parliament and of the Council of the 21st of May 2008 on the ambient air quality and a cleaner atmosphere in Europe. This directive introduces regulations for new pollutants, such as particles of smaller than 2.5 m, as well as new requirements in terms of evaluation and air quality objectives, taking into account the standards, guidelines and programs corresponding to the World Health Organization. Has already been transposed in Spain by Royal Decree 102/2011, of January 28, concerning the improvement of the quality of the air. Directive 2004/107, EC of the European Parliament and of the Council of the 15th of December 2004, relating to arsenic, cadmium, mercury, nickel and aromatic hydrocarbons polycyclic in the ambient air. The directive establishes target values for arsenic, cadmium, nickel and benzoapyrene, on behalf of POS mercury accepted, understood, as the concentration in ambient air set to prevent or reduce the harmful effects of these pollutants on human health and the environment in their set, which should be reached as much as possible during a certain period of time. Directive 2015/1480, set, of the Commission, of August 28, 2015, by which they are modified several annexes to Directives 2004/107, EC and 2008/50, EC of the European Parliament and of the Council, in which the rules are established regarding the reference methods, the validation of data and the location of the sampling points for the evaluation of the ambient air quality. On December 12, 2011, Decision 2011/850, U was approved, concerning the reciprocal exchange of information and notification about ambient air quality to European Commission, states that member states will provide information on the evaluation system to be applied in the following calendar year with respect to each pollutant in areas and agglomerations. This decision applies from January 1, 2014 and repeals as of that date Decision 97/101, on the exchange of information, Decision 2004/224, of 20 February 2004 of plans or programs and Decision 2004/461, of 29 April 2004, relative to the questionnaire on the evaluation of ambient air quality. Spanish Regulations Law 34/2007, of November 15, on air quality and protection of the atmosphere. This law updates the legal basis for developments related to the evaluation and management of air quality in Spain, and its ultimate goal is to achieve levels optimal air quality to avoid, prevent or reduce risks or negative effects on human health, the environment and other goods of any nature. By means of the government is enabled to define and establish the air quality objectives and the minimum requirements of air quality assessment systems, and serves as a framework regulator for the preparation of national, regional and local plans for the improvement of air quality. Royal Decree 102/2011, of January 28, relating to the improvement of air quality. This rule transposes the content of the directive into Spanish law. 2008/50, of May 21, 2008 and Directive 2004/107, of December 15, 2004. Approved with the purpose of avoiding, preventing and reducing the harmful effects of mentioned substances on human health, the environment as a whole and other goods of any nature. This royal decree was modified by Royal Decree 678/2014 and shows that in the absence of an automatic and continuous reference method for the measurement of sulfide carbon, and following the criterion of European regulations, it is not reasonable to demand compliance with the average carbon sulfide concentration of less than 24 hours. In addition, this royal decree modifies the air quality objectives of molecular chlorine, hydrogen chloride, fluorine compounds, hydrogen fluoride, sulfur of hydrogen and carbon sulfide. The above information comes from the official website of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Environment Magrama. Therefore, we are facing a behavior that not only occurs with character continuous and massive to take place throughout the national territory, but that it can be constitutive of one or several crimes against the environment of special intensity and gravity. This justifies proceeding to the initiation of this complaint and remember investigation of the facts, with whose investigation is appropriate, among others, to request information and clarification from competent authorities, including the Ministry of Defense, and in order for the Ministry of Health to prepare a study on composition of chemtrails and its possible risks to the health of beings humans. Fourth, as the air traffic control corresponds to institutions, officers or delegates, be they civil or military, can be deduced from it an eventual or presumed connivance of the authors of these facts with institutions, authorities or public figures who would have allowed or authorized them, which it is necessary that, in the investigation of the same, the appointment of auditors, informants, data collection, laboratories and private expertise, in order to provide evidence of greater external, independent and impartial nature. However, air traffic control throughout the territory of Spain is exclusively assigned to the Spanish government authorities, and, as a result of the Treaty of NATO accession North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, to the authority that determines such a treaty when the necessary strategic collaboration for the fulfillment of the purposes of this organization multi-state, no other entity or particular, if such intervention has not been delegated, which delegation, at all times, presupposes the reservation of its total control of delegated activities holds, at all times, such surveillance and control of all traffic national air transport, since that is one of the functions for which the authority has been created NATO or governmental, in reserve assignment invoked of functions of his treaty. And since, today, at present, sufficient technical resources are available to achieve the total control of the airspace of Spain, any flight of any aircraft must and is registered in the computer records or the agency, government ministry Spanish or the NATO regional operational agencies without sporadic or punctual operation of air traffic per aircraft of small volume. This is not the case that concerns us, because, in this case, we are dealing with operations one not already punctual, but habitual, or very repetitive, in a daily or weekly in time, and, second, committed by aircraft of great volume, and to the view of any citizen what the invocation of ignorance for any authority in the matter places it, syllogistically, in connivence with the facts, already that the multitude of the citizens not needing to call it public opinion, now, because it is obvious, and therefore not debatable or opinionable it can be corroborated with just raise your eyes to heaven. Since the evidences cannot be denied, even, already registered in some acts notaries of Spain, as facts verified by an official with public faith notarial, before which, the multitude of witnesses who have already verified such facts proves with the same reliable character. And these should be those that facilitate the investigation of the facts in the proceedings of instruction that are agreed in the cause that originates this denunciation. In short, having proof already of that, officiating informally to the regional and geographically competent air authority for air control of its area, the judicial authority has been answered ignoring the fumigatory facts base of the trade interested in the constancy in their records of such aerial activities of transit and fumigation. Care should be taken in the recipient of such an application for information, insofar as, starting from the existence, as a matter of principle, of total control of the air traffic by the Spanish governmental authority or NATO, could be derived such an office to an organ in which such exercise of sovereign control born of the ballot and parliament was not being exercised for the benefit of citizens, but rather sovereign authority born of the ballot boxes and parliament was not developed by such government or delegate or NATO organ for reasons of corruption or prevaricatories that would take him away from his necessarily public role. This is appreciable in the following web, where details and data about them are given. It is published in the following internet links, sufficiently clear and meridian representative of facts that confirm the commission of the crimes indicated above. Legal basis. First, the Penal Code establishes Chapter 3 of Crimes Against Natural Resources and the Environment Article 1. He shall be punished with imprisonment from 6 months to 2 years, a fine of 10-14 months and special disqualification for profession or trade for a period of 1 to 2 years that, in contravention of laws or other general protective provisions of the environment, cause or directly or indirectly cause emissions, discharges, radiations, extractions or excavations, smearing, noise, vibrations, injections or deposits, in the atmosphere, soil, subsoil or terrestrial waters, underground or maritime, including the high seas, with incidents even in the spaces cross-border, as well as water catchments that, by themselves or together with others, cause or may cause substantial damage to the quality of the air, soil or water, or animals or plants. 2. If the previous behaviors, by themselves or jointly with others, could seriously damage the balance of natural systems, a penalty will be imposed of prison from 2 to 5 years, a fine of 8 to 24 months and disqualification special for profession or trade for 1 to 3 years. If a risk of serious harm to the health of the people has been created, will impose the penalty of imprisonment in its upper half, being able to reach the superior in grade. Article 1. They will be punished with the penalties provided in the previous article, in their respective assumptions, who, in contravention of laws or other provisions of a general nature, collect, transport, valorize, transform, eliminate or take advantage of waste, or not control or adequately monitor such activities, so that they cause or can cause substantial damage to the quality of air, soil or water, or animals or plants, death or serious injury to people, or may harm seriously the balance of natural systems. 2. Who, outside the assumption referred to in the previous section, transfers an amount not negligible waste, both in the case of one and in the number of transfers that appear linked, in any of the cases referred to in the law of the European Union regarding shipments of waste, will be punished with a penalty of 3 months to 1 year in prison, or a fine of 6 to 18 months and special disqualification for profession or trade for a period of 3 months to a year. Second, the Constitution of the State, in its article, establishes that, for all the above, supply to the Central Court of Instruction. Keep in mind presented this writing, for the denounce in matter of middle crime environmental and others specified in it and agree to the opening of instruction through an urgent procedure for the investigation of alleged crimes denounced. Others we say the following procedural steps are requested. Investigation, offering actions to the complainants, declaration of the investigated, criminal background of the investigated, declaration of the experts and collect all, to be subject to, with object to perform. Others we say that, for the investigation of the facts denounced and the identity of the author concerned, the investigation proceedings are agreed upon following, and to the Central Court of Instruction, we supply again. 1. Office of the National Police is sent to the National Police, so that take samples of the air in the area of, and be analyzed to determine its composition and determine the amount or proportion, and reported its effect on public health, ruling, if its allowed threshold components are exceeded by the current legislation in all its detected components, especially in heavy metals, germs, bacteria or nanoparticles, attentive to those considered unusual or that they are spraying on the population. 2. The appointment of an expert chemical engineer is agreed in order to issue opinion on the same effects and extremes, for which purpose it is proposed to 3. The appointment of an expert biological engineer is agreed in order to issue opinion on the same effects and extremes, for which purpose it is proposed to 4. An official letter is sent to the Ministry of Health of the Department of, for the purpose of that by its Laboratory of Biology and Biochemistry take samples of the air in the area of, and are analyzed to determine its composition and determine its grade or proportion, and report on its effect on public health, ruling on whether exceed their threshold components allowed by current legislation in all its components detected, especially in heavy metals, germs, bacteria or nanoparticles, attentive to those that are considered unusual or that are spraying on the population. 5. Office of the National Police is sent to the National Police, so that issue a report about the references you have about the last 6 months about the existence or verification of such trails of spraying, chemtrails or star residues, not the type of water vapor, which disappear in a short period of time, around less than half an hour, that remain in the atmosphere long period of time, much more than half an hour left by aircraft to its transit through the city of, and its dimensions are reported in the atmospheric space of its height, of its layout, initial and final metric width reached before its dispersion or visual disappearance, original address and routed destination, indicating their geopositioning with GPS standards, all indicated in a plan and developed in additional report. 6. The appointment of an expert chemical engineer is agreed in order to issue opinion on the same effects and extremes, for which purpose it is proposed to 7. The appointment of an expert biological engineer is agreed in order to issue opinion on the same effects and extremes, for which purpose it is proposed to 8. An official letter is sent to the civil police of the civil guard in order to carry out an investigation during the next following 30 days upon receipt of said office, and issue a report on the existence or verification of such trails of fumigation or spraying, chemtrails or stellar residues, not the vapor type of water, that disappear in a short period of time, around less than half an hour, that remain in the atmosphere for a long period of time, much more half an hour left by planes to transit through the city of, and its dimensions are reported in the atmospheric space of its height, of its layout, initial and final metric width reached before its dispersion or visual disappearance, original address and routed destination, indicating their geopositioning with GPS standards, all indicated in a plan and developed in additional report. 9. Office is sent to the organism department in charge of the control of the airspace of the city area of, integrated within the airport, of, airspace control tower or entity with such functions at effect in order to issue a report about the references you have about the last 6 months on the existence or verification of flights, authorized or not, on the own and same airspace of the city of, a flying aircraft or artifices not identified whose path corresponds to that of a crisscross in all the directions and senses, with multiple flying units, and that correspond with tracings that citizens, especially whistleblowers, observe as usual in the atmosphere, and that they leave to their transit wakes of fumigation or pulverization, chemtrails or stellar residues, not the type of water vapor, which disappear in a short period of time, around less than half an hour, that remain in the atmosphere long period of time, much more than half an hour. And inform yourself of your itinerary routed in the atmospheric space of your height, original address and routed destination, indicating its geopositioning with GPS standards, all indicated in a plan and developed in additional report, and identification of the type of aircraft and company or charter entity and legal address of the same. Informing about whether such flights transit within geographic spatial routes authorized by the legislation and authorities of civil and military aviation. Reporting, regardless of the content of previous reports, especially if the geographical transit routes of aircraft by the same and own flight from the city of are or are not authorized by law, regulations or authorities, and under what conditions, requirements and authorities should agree your prior authorization. 10. Formal referral to the Ministry of Defense for the same purposes. 11. It is agreed the appointment of an external industrial engineer independent in order to carry out research and issue an opinion on them effects and extremes. Ordering it, so that it has access to the programs and instruments of communications and control of companies, organizations and entities in charge of control of air traffic. And to verify, if there are registered data, instruments, controls of any nature relating to such indicated flights, transits, aircraft and wakes, and if such controls are agreed, put into practice, and the means to complete them. For which purpose it is proposed to d. 12. The appointment of expert aeronautical engineer is agreed, so that conduct research and issue an opinion on the same effects and extremes. Ordering it, so that it has access to the programs and instruments of communications and control of companies, organizations and entities in charge of control of air traffic. And to verify, if there are registered data, instruments, controls of any nature relating to such indicated flights, transits, aircraft and wakes, and if such controls are agreed, put into practice, and the means to complete them. For which purpose it is proposed to d. 13. The office department responsible for the control of the airspace of the area of the city of, integrated within the airport, airspace control tower or entity with such functions for that purpose, so that it carries out an investigation during the next 30 days to the reception of said office, and issue a report on the existence or verification of flights, authorized or not, on the own and same airspace of the city of an identified aircraft, or flying devices whose route or path corresponds with that of a crisscrossing in all directions and senses, with flying units multiple, and that correspond to paths that citizens, especially those whistleblowers, observe as usual in the atmosphere, and leave their transit trails of fumigation or spraying, chemtrails or stellar residues not the type of water vapor, which disappear in a short period of time, around less than half an hour, that remain in the atmosphere for a long period of time much more than half an hour. And inform yourself of your itinerary routed in the atmospheric space of your height, original address and routed destination, indicating your geopositioning with GPS standards, all indicated in a plan and developed in additional report. And identification of the type of aircraft and company or charter entity and legal address of the same. Informing about whether such flights transit within geographic spatial routes authorized by the legislation and authorities of civil and military aviation. Reporting, regardless of the content of previous reports, especially if the geographical transit routes of aircraft by the same and own flight from the city of are or are not authorized by legislation, regulations or authorities, and under what conditions, requirements and authorities should agree your prior authorization. 14. The Ministry of Defense is sent an official letter to the same effect. 15. It is agreed the appointment of an external industrial engineer independent in order to carry out research and issue an opinion on them effects and extremes. Ordering it, so that it has access to the programs and instruments of communications and control of companies, organizations and entities in charge of control of air traffic. And to verify, if there are registered data, instruments, controls of any nature, referring to such indicated flights, transits, aircraft and wakes, and if such controls are agreed, put into practice, and the means to complete them. For which purpose it is proposed to d. 16. The appointment of an aeronautical engineer, as an expert is agreed in order to conduct research and issue an opinion on the same effects and extremes. Ordering it, so that it has access to the programs and instruments of communications and control of companies, organizations and entities in charge of control of air traffic. And to verify, if there are registered data, instruments, controls of any nature relating to such indicated flights, transits, aircraft and wakes, and if such controls are agreed, put into practice, and the means to complete them. For which purpose it is proposed to D. It's from justice that we ask in Paris, London, Berlin, Washington, to 24 of July of the 2019. Denouncers down firmers related to the 30 Anti-Chemtrails platform, in forward, SCSAC, in complaint for pre-environmental crime name, the home. Firm. 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 Name, the home. Firm.